The Tennis Gambling Podcast and the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Nick Fantasy. Sign up with the promo code SGPN, get 50% bonus up to $1,000. We're also brought by Edge Boost. Earn up to $750 per month in your sports gambling transactions. Go to edgeboost.bet, promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm, the leader in data-driven picks and props. Get a 70 free trial today by going to sports.com, RATHMM. And welcome, everybody, to the Tennis Game Podcast here on the Sports Game Podcast Network. It is currently Thursday night, February 6th, roughly 7 p.m. Eastern Time on the East Coast. I'm your host, always, Scott Reichel, once again going solo for this pod. Time to get into the actual preview of the quarterfinals here in Rotterdam. Now, I do have to explain the actual schedule. Unfortunately, this is the problem with events taking place in North America because the European, I'd say, matches happen early and happen pretty consistently one after another. The North American circuit doesn't really do the same thing. North America tends to take some breaks in the middle of the day, and on top of that, they tend to extend all the matches throughout the course of the entire day. So as a result of that, we are going to skip over the Dallas quarterfinals, which are still going on, actually. So apologies, but we're probably going to end up skipping over Dallas for the next day or two. Going to go through Rotterdam only on this episode because we have lines out, and I didn't really want to wait until 4 a.m. or whenever to actually get into the Dallas tournament matches on the quarterfinals. So we're going to skip over Dallas, moving into Rotterdam only for this episode. I just wanted to briefly announce that in case you're wondering my thoughts on the Dallas stuff. Unfortunately, have to skip over that for the sake of the podcast. Now, before we get into the actual preview of the 4 quarterfinal matches taking place on Friday, want to remember once again that you can't show support for the show, but like, subscribing to YouTube. And reminder, the show's also available on Spotify or Apple, audio only. So if you want to show support for that, you can also find that once again on Spotify or Apple, and you can leave a rating and a review. Plus, a reminder, check out the merch store on the SGPN website. We have a lot of great Tennis Game Podcast merch with sweatshirts, t-shirts, and mugs. All high quality, all affordable. Recommend getting yourself something on there, whether it involves, once again, we have different colors for shirts as well. Different shows have merchandise as well. And we also have a great overall deal going on right now, or a great promo in honor of the Super Bowl, because we are running a free squares pool for the Super Bowl. $1,000 winner take all for the final square. Just go to sportsgaming.com/squares to sign up today. Once again, that's sportsgaming.com/squares. And also, due to popular demand, if we get 200 entries, we'll release another $1,000 free squares pool. So if you sign up, you can potentially enter 2 free contests for a chance to win $2,000 in total. Once again, completely free. So don't forget to sign up before all these spots are gone. Anyway, starting off with the actual recap of the picks from the last episode. Overall, a great episode. Ended up sweeping the lock and dog picks. For the lock, we faded Bublik again, and it worked out to our favor, as we had Mensik to win the first set and the match at -134. Never in doubt, he coasted. We've really been on point with our Bublik fade so far this season, and we've been cleaning up. So once again, another easy win there for the lock. For the dog, nice win as well, as we had Morozin and Struff over 2.5 sets at +130. That one was really never in doubt either, as you ended up seeing Morozin win the first set, Struff did win the second set, and then eventually Morozin did win a final set breaker. But every head-to-head meeting between them has gone distance, or at least has not ended in straight sets, and that happened again. So nice overall winner there at +130. So once again, nice sweep. Hopefully we'll continue with another sweep here for the quarterfinals in Rotterdam on Friday. Now, getting into the actual recap of the round of 16 here in Rotterdam, Alcaraz beat Vavasori in an absolute blowout. That was never in doubt. Straight set win there. Supposed to be Felix, but Felix ended up getting injured in that first round match and had to withdraw after winning the title last week in Montpellier. So he ended up having some injury. Hopefully it's not serious, but he ended up retiring. And as a result, a double specialist in Vavasori ended up winning a match in the singles and eventually got it destroyed by Alcaraz on Thursday. You saw Martinez pull off the upset against Rune as he won comfortably in straight sets. Rublev ended up beating Morozin in 2 tie breaks. You saw Hurkacz beat Leheshka. Leheshka got injured, had to retire midway through the second set. Besides that, you ended up seeing Altmaier pull off the upset against Fees. I've mentioned Fees many times on the show being overvalued in the markets because he constantly drops sets, and it feels like he's really just unable to put away weaker opponents, and he let Altmaier hang around. Altmaier eventually did beat him, but he also dropped a set in the first round to Les Tien, which is pretty embarrassing on hard court. So overall, Fees I'm a lot lower on than most people, and Altmaier upset him in that matchup there in 3 sets. Saw de Minaur beat Mensik in straight sets. You saw Tsitsipas beat Griekspoor in a marathon, where he ended up having 2 tie breaks and a 7-5. Match took about 3 hours. Great match in general, but Tsitsipas to get the job done there in 3. Somebody messaged me on Twitter my thoughts on that match. I actually said Tsitsipas in 3, so I ended up calling that pretty well. And then for the last one, you ended up seeing Bellucci pull off the upset against Medvedev as he won in 3 sets. Now, that is going to segue into a piece of potential tennis drama for betting that I have to mention from the quarterfinals in Rotterdam. Medvedev line movement, because he was a massive favorite against Bellucci. He was around minus 700. And then suddenly he was not. He was minus 250. So the line moved about $4+ in favor of Bellucci entering the match. Now, normally, when you see a line move that big, you can argue that there's some match fixing or some inside information that's potentially being shared amongst bettors or syndicates or etc. So I'm not saying outright that Medvedev threw the match, but what I am saying is that when you see a line move of $4 against the favorite, that's a pretty serious red flag. So I do expect an investigation to be taking place, whether he actually threw the match or not. Somebody knew something. That's all I'm going to say there, because you move from minus 700 to minus 250, that involves a ton of money on Bellucci. Somebody knew something. That's all I'm going to say. So either way, you could argue maybe somebody knew something about an injury. Medvedev did not look injured over the course of that match. I think we'd all agree Medvedev had some chances to potentially win the match, and he ended up blowing them, especially the break point chances in the 3rd set. But the fact is, you had that big of a line move against a top 5, top 10 guy in the world, against an unknown Italian player. That is very sketchy, and I expect there to be some investigation that ends up happening based on that match over the next couple of months. But either way, point is Medvedev lost in a bit of a shocker there, as he ended up losing in the 2nd round after having a war against Wawrinka in the 1st match. Point is, though, we ended up fading Medvedev for the actual outrights because we didn't take him. So I feel pretty good about that. Medvedev has been a completely underwhelming top 10 guy for years at this point, and we were able to avoid him. So nice for us. But once again, want to point that out. The line move was pretty alarming, and I wanted to bring that up. Anyway, time to get into the actual matches here for the quarterfinals in Rotterdam. Before we get into that, though, I want to remember once again that we are brought to you by DraftKings, because this isn't the little itty-bitty tiny bowl. This is the Super Bowl. Once again, Super Bowl, and it's going to be a pretty fun game in general. But if you want to get on the action and make it more fun, you could also go to DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 59. Scoring touchdowns is key to hoisting the Lombardi Trophy. And if you want to have a shot at scoring big by betting on it, you can bet on DraftKings Sportsbook for the touchdowns. The number one place to bet on touchdowns. Plus, new customers can get $5 to win $200 bonus instantly, which is a great promo. Once again, $5 to get $200 of bonus bets instantly. So you're just getting a great deal. So recommend. Once again, if you are new to DraftKings, why do you not make an account? Only bet $5, you get $200 that you can bet with for fun. So once again, recommend getting yourself something there. A reminder, though, that if you do want to actually use the promo, you do have to download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, use code SGP. It's code SGP for new customers to get $200 in bonus instantly when you bet just $5 on DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
We're also brought to you by Rhythm. SGPN's proud partner, Rhythm, is the number one place to help you find actual betting models. Or if you want to build some on your own, you can build custom models in seconds. You could also copy one from the leaderboard, or let Rhythm build one for you in seconds. NFL picks, NFL props, college basketball, and the NBA. Once again, only one NFL game left on the season. If you want to try to capitalize on some AI picks. A reminder, though, that you can also try it out for free for a week. Go to sportsgames.com/Rhythm, sportsgames.com/RITHMM. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Scam Podcast. Just finished recapping what happened in the round of 16 in Rotterdam. Time to move on into the 4 matchups taking place on Friday. Starting off with the first match on the actual card, you have a matchup between Altmaier and de Minaur. Now, de Minaur is a massive favorite. He's roughly minus 1,100. For the actual spread here, you have minus 5.5 for de Minaur. You have plus 5.5 for Altmaier. For the over-under, you have 19.5. Now, you're looking at the overall path so far. de Minaur's been really good. Ended up beating Mentic in straight sets. He also ended up beating Goffin in straight sets. Goffin's been an absolute mess, so I'm not going to read too much into that one, but the point is you are looking at a spot where de Minaur has been playing good tennis. He's defending runner-up. He's been solid so far in this event, and you're looking at de Minaur, who should be a massive favorite in this tournament. Now, in this matchup. Now, you're looking at Altmaier, who had a pretty weird draw because he lost in qualifying to Lestienne. Then he got a lucky loser draw because Perricard retired. as Pericard ended up having an illness, so he had to withdraw from the event. So he ended up filling in, got killed in the first set by Kovacevic, then ended up beating him in 3. Then he ended up having a 3-set marathon against Fees and won that one 7-5 in the third set. So you can argue that once again, it's a great run for him. On the other hand, he's still not exactly known as being a great hardcore player. He's mostly a clay guy, and he did play a 3-hour marathon, or I should say a 3-set marathon, 2.5 hours against Fees on Thursday. So fatigue could be an issue, but it's mostly based on matchup for me. Altmaier's got firepower, a solid one-handed backhand, but I do think at the end of the day, de Minaur's too solid based on consistency. I think that he's worthy of being a big favorite, defending runner-up once again. The only person he lost to in this event in the last year was Sinner, and everyone loses to Sinner. So for this one, I think de Minaur wins comfortably. The issue with straight sets is around like minus 300. There's really not much value to be found in this matchup. If I had to go for anything, I'd probably go for de Minaur team total under if I wanted to get cute with it, because I think that he should win probably comfortably. You can find the actual 12.5, though, for the team total at minus 165. So once again, a pretty tough match to actually find value on. You're kind of priced out of it. If I had to go for anything, I'll go with the under 19.5 games. Yes, it might get sweaty, but I do think de Minaur should win this one comfortably. I think he's better than Altmaier by a decent amount. Fees, I mentioned before, is a head case, and Gofen's been an absolute... Gofen's been a mess in general, so de Minaur had a pretty easy path in the first round. I see a pretty similar story to that first-round matchup. I think that Altmaier is going to struggle. I think de Minaur will be able to break him. Altmaier, not a great server either. That's why he's a good clay player. I think de Minaur should win similarly to the score that he did against Gofen, 6-2, 6-4, something like that. So give me the under in games. But once again, not a lot of value. Same thing we're going to mention with the Alcaraz match. You have two massive favorites over minus 1,000. So it's tough to really find value on those matches because straight sets are going to be so expensive. So because of that, I do think you're looking at a spot where de Minaur should win, but I'll go with the under. I don't see much value besides that. If you want to go for something extremely bold, you can maybe go for de Minaur team total over if you think Altmaier makes a competitive set out of it. I don't, so that's kind of where I'm at. Moving on, though, to the next matchup. You have Tsitsipas against Bellucci. Now, Bellucci is the surprise story here because he was able to get through qualifying, ended up winning the first round against an unknown Dutch wildcard, and ended up beating Medvedev in 3. Now, for the other matchups here for Tsitsipas. He's been good, had a 3-hour marathon against Griekspoor on Thursday, and he ended up winning the first round against Mayotte. So he's been good so far in the event. Now, for the actual money line, Tsitsipas is minus 230. You have Bellucci at around plus 190. For the game spread, you have minus 2.5 for Tsitsipas. You have plus 2.5 for Bellucci. The over-under in game is set at 23.5. Slight juice, though, on the under. If you want Tsitsipas in straight sets, available at plus 125. Now, for the matchup, I think Tsitsipas has actually been pretty solid in the event. I thought he looked very good against Griekspoor in the matchup on Thursday. The only problem is, do you trust Tsitsipas to look sharp for a full 2 sets? Because I am tempted by the Tsitsipas straight sets. He's a former finalist here. He's looked very good. The serve's been good. I thought that he has looked really solid with the backhand, especially with the firepower, and it's why he was able to win against Griekspoor in that 3-set marathon. However, 3 hours is a long time. Bellucci did not play yesterday, so his 3-set match, isn't exactly that big of a deal because he had an off day on Thursday. So the rest advantage is in favor of Bellucci. I also want to point out Tsitsipas has really not been good against lefties. I mentioned this many times on the show. Tends to struggle against lefties in his career. However, Bellucci, I think, is a pretty solid rallier. He's got variety. Is he a great server? No. I think Tsitsipas' serve will give Bellucci problems. I think you might get a competitive set out of this, but I think that Tsitsipas should win, in my opinion, in straight sets. I like the value at plus 125. The over 12.5 games is minus 150. I understand that. If you want to argue maybe for a Bellucci team total under at 11.5, a minus 105, because in theory, Bellucci can win a set, and you could still win that under if he gets killed in the other 2 sets. So that is a possibility, but I think Tsitsipas actually played good tennis, and it feels like he's starting to kind of find his groove to some degree. Yes, he's mostly underwhelming at this stage, at least for us when we bet, or at least when we examine his matches. Tsitsipas tends to be a guy we tend to avoid because we can't trust him. But every now and then, like Monte Carlo last year, things align properly for Tsitsipas, and I feel like this might be an event where this has been the case. So I'm going to go Tsitsipas to win in straight sets. I get Bellucci will be a popular pick for an upset in this matchup. But watching Tsitsipas play against Griekspoor, I like what I saw. I think that he returned well. I think that the serve was pretty effective, and I think Bellucci maybe has a letdown emotionally after winning one of the biggest matches of his career. I think Medvedev, you could argue whether he threw the match or not. Point is, it's a nice win for Bellucci. Will he be able to, I'd say, back up that great performance, or will he have a letdown? I think it's going to be mostly a letdown for me. John's asking about the game total for Tsitsipas. I don't have much on that one. I think I actually would consider the under, but I'm not going to bet it. I think Tsitsipas straight sets at plus 125. I think it's a great price. I think Bellucci, who, if you want to look at the actual path, besides the Medvedev win, hasn't really beaten anybody worth a damn in the entire event. He went through qualifying, ended up beating two Dutch guys who are not great in Bogard and Brouwer. Then he ended up beating a wild card who's completely unknown. He won 6-3, 6-2, and then he beat Medvedev. So I guess my question is, if he did not beat Medvedev, with sketchy line movement aside, would Tsitsipas be plus 120 to win in straight sets, plus 125? The answer is no. I think it's an overreaction to one match, and I think that you're looking at Bellucci, who beat Puig in the first round of Montpellier, lost to Kovacevic in straight sets. Tsitsipas, though, ended up beating Mayotte in straight sets, beat Griekspoor. I think he's played good tennis so far in the event. I'll go with the straight set win for Tsitsipas for value alone. I think the line's disrespectfully short to Tsitsipas, who I do think can definitely become the aggressor in a lot of these rallies and force Bellucci on the back foot. Give me Tsitsipas to get the job done in straight sets at what I think is good value at plus 125. Moving on to the next matchup, you have another massive favorite. You have Alcaraz at around minus 1,200 against Martinez. You have the over-under being around, once again, about 18.5, 19.5. So you're expecting a pretty lopsided matchup between them. But the over-under for this one is set at around, once again, 18.5 or 19.5. Now, for the matchup, Alcaraz actually 3-0 lifetime against Martinez. Alcaraz ended up beating him on hard court in a challenger event back in 2020. Faced off on clay twice in 2019. Alcaraz did win both of those. So they've not faced off in about 4 years, 5 years, give or take. And the point is, you're looking at Alcaraz being, of course, right now a top 3 player in the world. Martinez is mostly a clay specialist, and he's ranked 44th. Now, Martinez has looked good in the event, though. Beat Agut and beat Rune, only dropping 5 games in each match, which is crazy. You're looking at Martinez, who destroyed Rune. Now, Rune's another head case, though, so you're not exactly shocked that Rune had a massive, I'd say, letdown or a massive egg against I'd say a pretty weak opponent on hard court. Rune, we know, is a guy that we don't exactly trust right now, or we haven't trusted on this podcast arguably ever. So Rune, I understand, was awful, but I think Rune is also a head case, so I feel like I'm going to take the result with a grain of salt. Now, Martinez has been good. Alcaraz, though, had a bit of an issue in the first match against Dzanchulp. He probably should have lost in straight sets. He was down a break in the first set. Dzanchulp serving for the set. He choked it. Alcaraz won the breaker. Then Dzanchulp won the second set. And then Alcaraz killed him in the third set. It's tough to find value once again. You could argue Martinez maybe can hang in there for a set. And if that's the case, maybe you want Alcaraz team total over. But I see Alcaraz winning in straight sets. I'm not going to reinvent the wheel here. Alcaraz looked great against Vavasori, who I know is not a great singles player in general. But Alcaraz, based on the nasal strip that he had and based on the illness that's been going around on tour, not even just in tennis, but across all sports, there's been a lot of illnesses going around for the winter months. Alcaraz seems to be fine. He looked a lot better in the second match than the first match. I think he'll win in straight sets. Maybe you get a breaker in there and Martinez can look sharp for a set, but I think that Alcaraz wins potentially 6-4, 6-4. I don't have much. I think I'm looking at the over in games maybe, but I'm not going to bet anything for this matchup for the sake of forcing a play when he's minus 1250. I don't see any value on that. I think I'm going to go with Alcaraz to once again win comfortably. Maybe I'll save the 2-0 for a lock and dog play at the end of the show. Teaser there for a parlay. The point is, give me Alcaraz to win this in straight sets. Think he'll beat Martinez. Martinez has been good. Don't get me wrong. But I do think Alcaraz is just another animal. And I see Martinez struggling to adjust to the overall court coverage and the topspin that Alcaraz possesses. Give me Alcaraz in that one in straight sets. Moving on to what I think is the match of the day in both tournaments. You have Rublev against Hurkacz, which should be a great matchup. Now, you're looking at the overall spread and total for this one. Rublev on the money line is minus 129. You have Hurkacz plus 109 on the money line for the spread. You have minus half a game for Rublev, plus half a game for Hurkacz. The over-under is around 24.5 or 25.5. Now, for the actual head-to-head history, they've had a couple of really fun matches. Faced off in the Shanghai final in 2023, and Hurkacz won the final set breaker. That was a 1,000 event. Nice win there for Hurkacz. Faced off in Indian Wells, Rublev won in straight sets 2022. Point is, though, for the head-to-head history, it is currently a 3-2 advantage for Hurkacz, and Hurkacz won the last meeting. Now, 3 of the 5 meetings in the head-to-head did go to a deciding set, so you might expect some fireworks and expect some marathon sets and potentially a marathon match, because breaker in this match is minus 140. I saw minus 190 on BetRivers, so a tiebreak is almost a foregone conclusion according to the betting markets in this one. So based on the overall matchup in the head-to-head, I think it should be a very fun match. Now, Hurkacz has played 1.5 matches in this event, as he was able to beat Kaboli in straight sets, 6-3, 6-2. Then he ended up beating Leheshka in the first set, 7-5, and he won the second set 2-0, and Leheshka retired. He was on the ropes, though. Leheshka got injured late in the first set, and Hurkacz capitalized, but it seemed like Leheshka was on pace to potentially win the match or even just have an absolute marathon, and we got robbed of it by injury. But Hurkacz won, so nice win for him. Rublev, though, we saw lose to Kovacevic in the semis of Montpellier. Then he beat Zhang and he beat Morozin in straight sets, both those matches, but it was a pretty competitive straight sets for Morozin, as it was 7-6, 7-6. Ended up winning 9-7 in the second set breaker. So Morozin had some chances to win the set, so he ended up having 1 set point in the breaker. So either way, point is, Rublev had a pretty rough, I'd say, second round match, which he ended up winning, but it wasn't easy. So I do think you're looking at a spot where Rublev has been vulnerable based on his overall mental, I'd say, toughness, which he has worked on. I'll give him props. He's actually talked about it in some press conferences about how he's worked on his overall, I'd say, anger management issues, and it seems like it's working out so far this year. For the most part, he did lose in the first round of the Australian Open, but still. Hurkacz, though, has given Rublev problems in the past. He's looked good on the serve, and when healthy, he's a top 10 caliber guy. First glance, over. I think these guys kill each other. So I don't mind the over 2.5 sets. But do I think Rublev should be around minus 130 for this match? I do not. I think that Hurkacz is pretty live to win it, actually. I would price this minus 110 apiece, honestly. I see a toss-up. So give me plus money. I saw plus 120 on Hurkacz on FanDuel. I think that's good value. I think that you're looking at what should be a close matchup. A matchup that should potentially go 3 sets, but Hurkacz is up 3-2 in the head-to-head. He won the last meeting. He's looked very good in the event serving-wise. And Rublev, we still know, can self-destruct at any moment. So I think that Hurkacz has the, once again, better price by a decent margin in this match. Give me Hurkacz for the upset. I like the price of plus 120. So that's going to be my thoughts on that one. Going through the comments section for the actual live stream, though, reminder we do live stream on these episodes. I see Real asking about Munar. Apologies, not going to cover the Dallas matches. We are only doing Rotterdam for the show. For Andrew, who's saying that he likes a parlay here with Alcaraz 2-0 and Tsitsipas. Who would mess it up? Potentially Tsitsipas, because he's a clown, but I think that he's going to win the match. So based on that, I think that the parlay should hit. Manzi's mentioning De Minaur has been in good form. He's really comfortable here in Rotterdam. Made the final last year. He's looked good. So once again, I think that he's in line to look sharp in this matchup against a pretty unexpected opponent in Altmaier in the quarters on Friday. I see other people mentioning that Rune and Tiafoe are the same type of unreliable. Yes, they are. It's why I never bet on either guy. So once again, if you don't know what to expect mentally from a player, my advice to you, don't bet on said player. That's kind of how I go about it, and that's maybe why I don't exactly gravitate towards women's tennis, because I can't trust anybody in women's tennis. But for men's tennis, there are a couple guys on a short list who I just don't trust, because mentally they are really just unreliable, as you said before. So I don't trust Rune ever. I don't trust Tiafoe ever. I saw Tiafoe lose to Nishioka on Thursday. I said it was the weird event that Nishioka might make the semis in. I said it. That's all I'm saying. Nishioka is one of those guys that can sneak up on anybody on hard court, especially in North America. And it seems like Nishioka is on another potential run to the semis, which I did call. But either way, Tiafoe, I can't trust ever. Guy's an absolute clown. I see other people talking about, Leonard likes the Hurkacz pick. Andrew talking about the head case Olympics. You are not wrong. a lot of head case guys in general on tour, and we tend to stay away from them when it comes to betting. And I see Corey mentioning that he also can't trust Rune. He went out sad. Sad's honestly generous. He got his ass kicked. Winning 5 games against Martinez on an indoor hard court is beyond sad. That's depressing. Like, there are certain levels of sadness that is like therapy level of depression. Like, he needs to see somebody for that. But Rune, you can't trust. That's why I never back him ever. If I'm going to bet Rune, it'll be the over in sets because he'll show up for 1 set and punt another 2. But he didn't show up for any part of the match today. So either way, a point is Rune, we don't back on the show. Tiafoe, we don't back on the show. And you know what? Our lives are a lot more peaceful avoiding those guys from the show. We're adding Medvedev, by the way, to that list. Medvedev might not be as bad as those guys, but I have avoided Medvedev, and it's worked out quite well for me. So once again, another guy that I'm adding to the avoid list or the head case list. Medvedev, welcome to the board. You are officially a proud member of the head case club on the show. Anyway, time to move on into the lock and dog picks for the show. For that, don't remember once again that we are brought to you by a couple more sponsors. We're brought to you by Edge Boost because SGPN's partnered up with Edge Boost, the premier Visa debit card for bettors. Edge Boost card allows you to avoid the hassle of having your sports, once again, betting denied from your credit card at the either sportsbook, DFS site, sweepstakes site, racetrack, or casino. Plus, you can earn a great deal, $750 per month in cashback rewards for using the Edge Boost card. You also know your money's safe as the card is FDIC insured. Best part is there are no credit checks, and it's completely free. Sign up today. Use the promo code SGPN to get better cashback rewards and instant tier 2 status. EdgeBoost.bet, promo code SGPN. EdgeBoost.bet, promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Underdog. A reminder that Underdog Fantasy has you covered for the big game. Big game's coming Sunday. Underdog does have a lot of great promos for the big game, and new customers can get a Travis Kelce free pick if they sign up before the game. A reminder, though, Underdog's site-wide no-sweat entry token is now live. So if you enter an entry with the no-sweat entry token and you lose, you get bonus credit in return. So it's basically a risk-free opportunity to win some money on Underdog. A reminder, though, for the upcoming big game, I am going to go with Jalen Hurts higher, half a touchdown in the game. Give me the tush push for the win. Sign up with the promo code SGPN to claim a special first time deposit over up to 1K bonus cash on fantasy promo code SGPN. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Game Podcast. Just finished previewing the quarterfinals in Rotterdam. Once again, apologies. No Dallas matches in this episode. It doesn't work out based on the schedule, based on the time, so apologies. We're doing Rotterdam only for this show. Anyway, for the actual lock and dog picks for the show. For the lock, we're going to go with a 2-pick parlay available, which I saw on DraftKings, but I am going to go with this. It's going to be the Chalkathon. We're going to go with Alcaraz 2-0, with de Minaur 2-0, and that pays out at minus 137 on DraftKings. And it was minus 118. Then I saw minus 137 before we went live, so I ended up grabbing that now before it moved. Either way, I expect the line to move again. I expect pretty basic chalk for the sake of these quarterfinal matches. Now, Alcaraz is minus 1,100. He's 3-0 lifetime against Martinez. Once again, every meeting happened before 2021. So Alcaraz has become a top 3 guy in the world since then, and he's still won all 3 matches against Martinez. And Martinez, we know, is a clay specialist. He beat him twice on clay. So I do think that Alcaraz should look comfortable here. I think that he's the better player in this match, and I think you're looking at a spot where Martinez had a great showing against Rune, but Alcaraz looked fine against Vavasori with the potential respiratory issue. I think he's fine now, maybe the illness, but once again, he had a very easy match on Thursday. Think he'll look sharp once again. Give me Alcaraz to get the job done in straight sets as the first leg of the parlay. De Minaur, same price, minus 1,100. Altmaier, though, had a 3-set marathon against Kovacevic and Fees. Also went to qualifying, ended up losing in qualifying. So fatigue could be an issue, but I think you're looking at de Minaur, who's the better player by far. Defending runner-up in this event. He also beat Goffin and Mensik in straight sets. Mensik's a good hardcore player. He won comfortably. I see a pretty straightforward win by de Minaur in this one. Give me the straight set parlay for Alcaraz and de Minaur at minus 137 as my lock. For my dog, I am going to go with a pretty fun, unique play that I discovered on FanDuel. Now, FanDuel, I saw, has a pretty interesting same-game parlay component. You can same-game parlay team totals, which I find very interesting and potentially profitable. Because if you think that the Hurkacz and Rublev match goes to 3 sets, tie breaks minus 140, and you're looking at what could be a marathon three-setter. Once again, at plus 120. You can get Hurkacz team total over 12.5 with Rublev team total over 12.5 at plus 164. If it goes 3 sets, you probably get each guy winning 13 plus games. The match, though, to go to 3 sets is plus 120. 3 of the 5 head-to-head meetings have gone to a deciding set, and the same game parlay I just mentioned has cash in all 3 of those matches. 4 of the 5 head-to-head meetings, though, have featured 1 tiebreak, and tiebreak in the match is minus 140. I saw minus 190 on Bet Rivers, and you're also looking at, once again, a way to get plus 120 for the over 2.5 sets at basically plus 164. Because if you end up getting a breaker, which we're assuming is going to happen, that's 6 games for one guy, 7 for the other. So you're basically comboing the tie break with the over 2.5 sets, or even if you just get a couple of potential 6-4s, you're in good shape. I think you're looking at a spot where you can find an opportunity for each guy to win a competitive set that gets you in a great spot to once again get a marathon match. Plus 164 is a great deal. I'm probably going to do this in the future. I didn't realize FanDuel let you do same-game parlays with team totals, and I feel like that's going to give you a great price if you're expecting a marathon match, which I am for this one. So give me the, once again, team total same-game parlay as my dog for a great price, in my opinion, at plus 164. So once again, the plays here for the quarterfinals in Rotterdam, the lock's going to be on the straight set parlay with Alcaraz and de Minaur at minus 137. For the dog, I am going to go with Hurkacz team total over 12.5 parlayed, same game parlay with Rublev team total over 12.5, and that pays out a plus 164 on FanDuel. We're back once again for the semifinals here in Rotterdam. Before we do that, though, do see a comment from Roby asking where I ended up betting tournament winners for the event. So I ended up finding different prices for different players. I shopped around. Bet Rivers had some prices. I saw FanDuel did. I saw DraftKings did. BetMGM did as well. The issue, Roby, is that you might have tried to look either during qualifying or maybe even when a match was already taking place. Once one match is happening, they tend to pull all the lines. So it might have just been time sensitive when you couldn't find it. But most books had outrights for all these events, or both these events. So I was able to find a lot of lines. You might have accidentally checked when there was a match going on, and that's why the match was pulled. So just keep that in mind. Either way, though, until next time, find me on Twitter, Reichel Radio. Remind you can also show support for the show by liking and subscribing on YouTube. And remind you can also leave a rating and review on Spotify or Apple. Trying to get to 800 for subscribers on YouTube. I think we're at 755, I think. So hopefully help us get there. And until next time, good luck to all of you and all of your bets. Bye, everyone.